So today I want to spend more time talking about how you can get smart about your own customers. It all comes from this book, Value Proposition Design, and it's an outgrowth of the Lean Startup Canvas that we've talked about. This business model canvas is one that we're using as a way to frame our information, and today I'm going to be talking about the difference between customer segments. What are those customer segments and how do you learn about them? And then how do you get to have a value proposition that meets the customer's interests? So the first thing is to know your customers. Find them, talk to them, study them, and draft profiles. One of the challenges that I find social entrepreneurs often have is that they are afraid to narrow their description of who their customers are. They tend to say, well, everybody should want this product. Or if it's an on-campus project, every student is going to be interested. But we're not going to let that be the standard that we use here. We want to be able to define customers in segments where the common characteristics between the people in that segment work. So if you're on a college campus, it would be women who are under 22 who are sophomores or juniors, who have a lot of walking they have to do. Right? So characteristics and what their needs are. So we're going to talk more about how do you figure that out. So here's examples of a couple customer profiles, just carrying it a little bit farther. So let's just say that one customer is a student who is a 26-year-old first-year grad student from South America who's interning. They don't have much money. And they find that taking any time away from school or work is almost impossible for them to do. So they have very limited volunteer time. They have very limited time to shop. They have very limited time to look for what's going to help them be better at whatever their needs are. And they also are personally interested in continuing to figure out a way to help others. So that's their value. So we talked about their situation, the amount, their time they have available, and some value piece. So here's a different kind of customer. This is a customer for the Impact Hub. This is a marketing professional who's worked at a major company, General Mills. Then they've worked for a PR firm, so obviously their skill sets in communication and marketing. They got an opportunity for early retirement from General Mills, and they took it, and now they're looking for what else they can do. They're specifically, they're age 58. They've got 2 adult kids, so they've got some more free time they might have not have had when their kids were younger. They've volunteered a lot with children's programs, and they're clearly not ready for retirement. They really want to find out what they can do next. So they want to get involved in something meaningful where they can learn and work with people who are younger than they are. Very specific profiles, very different people. Both of these are people that Impact Hub wants to figure out how to serve. So the basic framework that we use to pull all the pieces of this information together is built by the Strategizer, the same people that built the Business Canvas. And we're going to concentrate first on this. There are 3 parts of this. This is the picture of the customer. And the concept is that people are seeking something that's a gain for them or to reduce or eliminate a pain they have, and that it's all tied around something that this model calls jobs. Now, it's not the way you normally think about jobs, so let's look at that. The customer's jobs thinking ties to what their functional tasks are, what they get paid to do, so something they need to get done, but it could also be a functional task they need to get done at home, or they need to get done for their leisure time interests. And specifically, they will have some information about what they need to solve that. Their social wants, it's another job in the way that this definition of jobs works. Their social wants are they want to look good, for example, or they want to be perceived positively, or they want to gain power. But the social wants are in these more softer kinds of categories. And then there are also personal feelings as part of a desire they have with the job. They want to feel good, they want to be secure, they want to be respected, they want to get better at what it is that they are trying to become. There's another category of customers, and those are the customers whose jobs are supportive that helps these other people be successful in their jobs. So they tend to be buyers from others, for others. So the people who inside a company are the ones that buy all of their software, for example, or they're the people who help create the opportunities so that people can experience things that make them feel good. So those are gonna be people whose customer type is a supporting job. Oops. So one of the things when you're doing your thinking about your target segments and you're beginning to get a picture of how to narrow the variations among your customers is that you want to be able to rate each of these kinds of pieces of the description of them by how important it is to that person. Sometimes the personal feelings are much more important for them at the moment than the functional task completion is. And then you want to group your customers by people who have those kinds of things in common from this whole list. So what you're going to be doing is going out, finding potential customers in your larger description of customers, and talking to them and finding out from them more information that allows you to be able to put these categories together or profiles together. So finding out what business tasks they're doing or what work tasks. For a student's work is school, so it's the same kind of questioning. So what tasks are they doing that could be better or could be easier? What kinds of things do they struggle with finishing or getting done or getting to, like cleaning your bedroom? And what barriers do they see are in there that are keeping them from being successful? So those key questions can help you frame the kinds of things you want to include in your interview. Now, when you remember the circle, go back to the circle. Remember the circle, there's this gains. So we spent time talking about what those jobs are. Now we're going to talk about how do you find out about what the gains are. And they're thinking about gains. So gains are things that are musts. I must be home by 6 o'clock at night, whatever that is. The expected, so they're requirements. I must always turn my homework in time. I must always complete the task at work by the Friday noon in order for my boss to have the materials. So lots of different kinds of must, but that's one of the things you want to be listening for. Expected gains are the minimum standard that someone is expecting to happen. So if you think about let's just think about a telephone. Smartphones these days, the required basics is it's got to be a phone, and it's got to get my messages, and it's got to get my email. So we suddenly have 3 musts for that product. Expected gains are what are the other standard offerings now that are on a phone that if they weren't there, you'd be upset. The desired gains are things that I'd love to have it. I'd love to have it be an alarm clock for me. I'd love to have it be able to be a place where all my music is. And that may be actually have moved from a desired gain, music, for example, to an expected gain as the marketplace changes. And then unexpected gains are things that customers didn't know they wanted, but once they experience it, then it suddenly becomes a desired gain. So as you're having conversations with your customers about what you might want to offer them, the things that you're looking for is a way to be able to differentiate what is a must-have, expected, and what would be nice to have. And that will help you begin to understand what unique features for what it is that you're going to be offering are going to be important to them and what they'll pay for. And again, you can begin to group your match what the customer segment has and wants compared with the customer gains. So if you go back and think about the customers that we were talking about for Impact Hub, the student who has little time and very little time to volunteer has a completely different kind of set of required gains. That is, make it easier for me to get my homework done, versus the semi-retired person who has lots of time and their gains are more about social engagement. So very different kinds of pieces of this. So questions that ask about gains are: what makes you happy? What makes your life easier? Lots of fun kinds of conversations to have with people. The gains conversations are ones that they love talking about, and you're going to learn a lot if you just ask a few kind of simple questions. The customer's pains is another key piece. So the best kind of customer is somebody who you are giving them gains that they want and need, and or you're reducing the pain they have in a way that is a major relief. So understanding what your customer's pain points are is just as important. So undesirable outcomes are where their pains are. The undesirable outcome can be, I've got a phone that the battery goes dead after 8 hours of use. That's an undesirable outcome, and it becomes a pain. A negative side effect is, we hear those all the time in the television advertising, various kinds of medications, for example. Those are negative side effects. You notice they read them really fast because they don't really want you to know what the pains could be with their product. Obstacles are things that I would love to be able to have this, but I can't. This obstacle is in the way. And risk or consequences. So if I start using this, am I going to lose this? So the functional, emotional, and other kinds of pains and gains, they can be things that people anticipate because they're fearful. They can be things people have experienced already that have made them make a decision, I'm not ever doing that again. So these are deeper conversations to have. You want to get information from this customer group about the severity of that pain. The deeper and the more severe the pain is, if you can resolve that pain, it's much more likely they're going to be a customer for you. And again, you want to group these people into smaller segments, and hopefully the pains and the gains and the jobs begin to form a single group of a target population for you. Questions for pains again. These are triggers that will get people to tell you stories that will help you understand what it is that are their pains and what you might be able to do to help them. So in this whole process, specificity is your friend. You want to get as much information as you possibly can from people. And you can actually write a description like I did with the Impact Hub potential customers that looks like you're only writing about one person. It becomes a profile. But there are lots of people that would be similar to that. You want to do as best as you can do at segmenting your customers and separating them. Now, we know you can't have 100 different customers, but you probably can have more segments of customers than you think you can. And you want to ask, why is it that they have this pain? Why is it that they're seeking this gain? The more you can apply the 5 whys, which we've already talked about, the better it will allow you to get at what that underpinning pain and the underpinning gains are that they're really talking about. The more you can put yourself in their shoes to have empathy for their situation, the easier it's going to be for you to get that depth of information that you need to be successful at this. So crystallizing customer segments is where we go now. You've got all this information, and now you've got to figure out how to put the customers together. We'll spend some time in class doing this, and basically the challenge is literally putting lots and lots of stickies on walls and figuring out where the similarities are that will really help you be able to frame your customer. So then you want to name them so that you have a shorthand to begin to have the conversation about who your customer is. So a 45-year-old with a busy job and 3 children at home wants to find music to relax to, but doesn't have time to do a search. So this is a parent looking for music to relax. Okay. So back to this. So we've just spent time describing this, and finding this out about your target market is what your assignment's going to be. And the product solution, I'm just going to hint at this, the product solution is all about naming your pain reliever, naming what your product and service is, and the gains created for each of those key target segments. You'll also be able to prioritize which target segments you're going to work with first. So how do we do that? Here's the test, and we'll do this in class, and it'll be part of what you write. The test is, our product or service helps our specific customer segment who wants to by reducing their pain and creating a gain. And so the value proposition becomes this statement tied to that specific target segment. So that's what this deep learning is about. And what I'm hoping you'll be able to do is you go out and interview your customers. And we'll see you in class. Thanks.